Welcome, everyone. It is 5:15 on Tuesday, May 26, 2020, and the Carroll City Council meeting is now in session. In support of Iowa Governor Kim Reynolds' proclamation declaring a state of public health disaster emergency in Iowa, the current COVID-19 situation makes it impossible and impractical to meet in one location. Due to this, the Carroll City Hall will remain closed to the public for the May 26, 2020 City Council meeting. However, the meeting will be made available telephonically. Will everyone please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please note the attendance. I believe Councilman Dirks is online. Our first item this evening is the consent agenda, which is approval of the minutes of the May 11th meeting, approval of bills and claims. We have no licenses and permits this evening, and we have a reappointment of Civil Service Commissioner Todd Barrell to the Civil Service Commission. If there are no questions with regards to the consent agenda, I'll look for a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. If there's no other discussion, we'll go ahead and vote, please.
Dirks?
Yes.
Fleischner?
Yes.
Seaman?
Yes.
Base? Yes. Haley?
Yes.
Cox?
Yes.
Motion is approved.
Thank you. The next item is under oral requests and communications from the audience for items that are not on the agenda. Is there any discussion? Nothing, hearing none at this point. We will then proceed to ordinances. And our first item this evening is the right-of-way easement use fees. And Randy, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. During the review of your fiscal year 21 proposed budget, there was a proposal to increase some of the right-of-way easement use fees that are contained in the city code. Those fees are listed in your memorandum. Actually, the ones proposed for increase include removal and replacement of curb and gutter, pavement restoration, and curb penetration, which are all proposed for minor increases, and then a utility trench granular backfill item that's proposed for additions to the code. And that is included because current research indicates that the most stable utility trenches under streets, the repair of them, includes backfilling with graded granular material. We have been backfilling those trenches under streets with graded granular material for about a year at no charge to the property or utility owners. The proposed fee at $25 per ton approximates the city's cost of the material. Nothing is included for placement of that material. You need to know that depending upon soil conditions and contractor excavation practices, a sanitary sewer trench repair under a street could run up to an estimated $750 for that graded granular material. It gets pretty expensive. We did have one last week on a residence that actually would have come up to about $200. It was a narrow trench and it was a short trench under the street. The fees that are collected under this right-of-way permits are credited to the general fund roadway maintenance. Now that portion of the budget not only funds right-of-way easement use permit work, but also other work that's not eligible for road use tax funding. I've included in your memorandum some of the projections for revenue and expenditure for actually last year, the current year, and then estimated next year with and without the proposed increases. You can see that the proposed increase is about $5,000 estimated. That really varies year to year based on the right-of-way permits that are issued or the work done within the right-of-way. Unless there are any questions, I'd recommend your consideration of the ordinance amending the right-of-way easement use permit fees.
Randy, I have a real quick question. How old are the other fees? Have any of those been changed recently?
I don't believe they have been changed for several years. We did review all of the fees. Actually, this work and the whole permit system and fee system was set up originally to recover some of the cost. It certainly doesn't cover all of the city's costs. And that was by intent. When this was initiated, the goal was compliance. And we do get very good compliance at these fees. So the fees do support some of the work, but not all of the work. And what we try to do on the dollar amounts is roughly equate those to what a contract bid would be that the city receives. In some cases, they're pretty close, and in other cases, it's difficult to get close, actually. So we did review them all. The others seem to be reasonably in line with that philosophy. Certainly not the philosophy of paying for the entire amount of the full service, but for that compliance philosophy, I guess, that's kind of where they're set.
Thank you. Are there any other questions for Randy? If not, I'll look for a motion for passage of the attached ordinance amending the right-of-way easement use fees. This doesn't have to go through a first reading, does it? Does have to go through?
Well, council can choose to waive all the readings and just do one reading.
Okay.
So would we be looking for a motion to accept the first reading and waive the second and third reading of the ordinance?
Correct. So I'll look for a motion. Yeah.
I would so move.
I'll second.
There's a motion and a second. If there's no other discussion, we'll go ahead and vote, please.
Fleshner,
Yes.
Dirks,
Yes.
Base. Yes. Seaman,
Yes.
Haley,
Yes.
Katz.
Yes.
Motion is approved.
Then I need a motion to adopt since all three.
So moved. Second.
You okay there? You still?
Yep.
Okay. Is there any other discussion? If not, we'll go ahead and vote, please.
Seaman,
Yes.
Oh, you're right.
Fleshner,
Yes.
Katz,
Yes.
Haley,
Yes.
Base. Yes. Dirks.
Yes.
Ordinance is adopted.
Thank you. The next item is the solid waste collection fee ordinance change. And Laura, when you're ready, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This also was another item that was discussed during our fiscal 21 budget prep, where the city staff was approached by Carroll County Solid Waste Commission about funding the maintenance and upkeep costs that are associated with the collection of the yard waste for the residents of the city of Carroll. There is a state requirement that cities provide a place for residents to dispose of yard waste. Many years ago, the city worked with the Carroll County Solid Waste Commission to collect the yard waste for the residents. At that time, only a small amount of the yard waste was being collected, but over the years, the amount has really grown significantly. With the growth comes additional expense as well. Carroll County Solid Waste is asking or requesting for $5,000 from the city to cover the maintenance and the upkeep of that collection area. City staff recommends, in order to cover this cost out of our budget, to increase the solid waste or the garbage collection admin fee by 15 cents. Attached to this memo is an ordinance that would increase the admin fee or the garbage collection fee by 15 cents. As you recall, we work with local haulers to dispose of the collection or dispose of the fee or the garbage in the community. And so this is to help cover the cost of the location of where the yard waste is taken. However, yard waste is not something I think that's permissible to be picked up with your weekly garbage. You'd have to talk with your hauler or take it out there yourself. This additional $5,000 is just to cover the maintenance of the site at the landfill itself.
I think it was years ago, the city had a spot out there, and then when they changed some of the DNR regulations with regards to who's taking care of the yard waste, we put it under the solid, and they decided they would take it. But the pile of it, I know, has grown tremendously out there. So,
Does council have any questions on the proposed ordinance?
no. Seeing no questions, I just need a,
Well, this one's another one. If you only wanted to do first reading, or if you wanted to do all 3 readings tonight, you may do so and then adopt. That's up to council.
yeah, I looked at that. You can do the first reading, see if there's any other public comment. I don't think there's any here, but otherwise you can waive all the second and third, so.
Make a motion to accept the first reading and waive the second, third.
I'd second that.
There's a motion and a second. If there's no other discussion, we'll go ahead and vote, please.
Cox?
Yes.
Base? Yes. Haley?
Yes.
Seaman?
yes,
Dirks?
Yes.
Fleshner?
Yes.
Motion is approved.
And then I need a motion to adopt the ordinance.
I move to adopt the ordinance.
second,
There's a motion and a second. There's no other discussion. We'll go ahead and vote, please.
Base? Yes. Fleshner?
Yes.
Haley?
Yes.
Cox?
Yes.
Seaman?
yes,
Dirks?
Yes.
Ordinance is adopted.
Thank you. The next item under the agenda is under resolutions, and it is the fiscal year 2019-2020 budget amendment number 2, and it is 5:27, and we'll go ahead and open a public meeting. And Laura, when you're ready.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is the time for the public hearing for our budget amendment for number 2 for our fiscal year 20. The notice of the public hearing was published in the Carroll Times-Herald on Friday, May 15th, which is in accordance with the requirements of state code. We just had a few items this time. At the time that we had done the last budget, we were not aware of, or had not been awarded a grant through the CDBG for some funding that we're going to pass through and work with local nonprofits to provide some food and things into the community, as well as we have door replacements at the police department that needed to be done as a result of the remodeling of the library project, and then wanting to upgrade the city hall router, so to have a more secure router and then be able to work remotely. Are there any questions or comments? I had not received any comments in the office prior to the meeting.
And then since this is a public hearing, those that are on the phone in the public portion, do you have any comments or questions? Hearing none. It is 5:28 and we'll close the public hearing. Are there any other questions for Laura from the council? If not, I will need a motion to approve the fiscal year 2019-2020 budget amendment number 2.
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any other discussion? We'll go ahead and vote, please.
Base? Yes. Seaman?
yes,
Dirks?
Yes.
Fleshner?
Yes.
Cox?
Yes.
Haley?
Yes.
Resolution is adopted.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is the Community Development Block Grant, COVID-19 Grant, Public Hearing Contract and Environmental Review. And it is 5:29, and we'll open another public hearing. And Mike, when you're ready, please.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. On April 28th, the city was awarded a community development block grant for COVID-19 activities, an amount not to exceed $49,050. This grant can be used to assist local nonprofits in providing restaurant gift cards to families and to cover processing costs of meat donated to local food programs in support of growing need to address hunger in the Carroll County community in response to the COVID-19 pandemic. So the two programs specifically, the grant funding will allow up to a $25 gift card to be provided to families that were served by the Carroll County Community of Concern Food Pantry and New Opportunities in 2019. In 2019, the Carroll County Community of Concern Food Pantry served 937 families, and New Opportunities served 825 families. So specifically, the amount that were provided to each agency includes $23,425 to Carroll County Community of Concern and $20,625 to New Opportunities. The second part of the grant is to provide funding to cover processing fees to donated meat to New Opportunities, an amount of $5,000. Both of these programs are estimated to that a majority of these activities will serve people of low to moderate income, persons and families that are facing food insecurity issues in Carroll County. Some items I'm required to go through under the terms of the grant. I would note that no person will be displaced or relocated as part of this project. The project is being funded entirely through a community development block grant provided by the Iowa Economic Development Authority, and there'll be no local or city match made as part of this grant. During this public hearing, the public also has an opportunity to comment on the project as a whole. Additionally, specifically, we are to request input on the following two items. First, community development and housing needs for low to moderate persons in the city, and any plan or potential activities to address these needs that they may believe need to be made. And additionally, other community development and housing needs, and any plan or potential activities to address those needs. Finally, I would say if there's any questions or concerns about this project, individuals after tonight can call and contact myself, Mike Pogieweaver, at 712-790-3050. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions the council has.
Does the community of concern and the New Opportunities, they're the ones that they're accountable for the money and where it goes? Oh.
Well, yes, they're accountable for like acquiring the gift cards and providing those to the customers. And then we would, once we receive invoice from them for making those purchases, we would then pay that, and it would be reimbursed from the state of Iowa County Development Authority.
So if not all the money is spent, does it go back to the state?
It would. So
Okay.
how this would work is they need to expend the money. We will reimburse them, and then
Got it.
reimburse
Okay.
the state.
So I'm sorry, go ahead, Mike.
Do they have a time frame on what they have to expend that in?
They have until, I believe, April 28th of next year. So, but we anticipate that they'll move forward pretty quickly at this point.
So we will probably have an accounting of the money too, is that right?
Yeah, I mean,
We'll know
we'll
where it's-
have to
okay.
account for, what we'll get from them is an invoice specifically to the city requesting reimbursement, but then we'll also ask for kind of backup data that they made those expenditures.
Got it.
And we've talked to the Economic Development Authority specifically, and they said that's all we need to do.
Mike, are you thinking we would turn in all the invoices at once? So then we would get like one payment from the state for the totality versus back and forth, back and forth?
So that's a great question, actually. Anytime we request under this program a reimbursement from the state, which I think is different than other community development block grants, specifically like the housing grant we have right now, we have to hold another public hearing prior to requesting reimbursement. So my thoughts would we would put them all together.
Okay,
and make
good.
one.
So we aren't gonna have to keep revisiting. Okay, thanks.
That'd save a lot of time.
Yes.
And we have to publish public hearings, and it's just a lot of work for everyone.
Any other questions for Mike? Since this again is a public hearing, are there any questions from the public with regards to the Community Development Block Grant? Hearing none, It is 5:35 and we will close the public hearing. And then I need a motion to approve the contract with the Iowa Economic Development Authority for the 2020 Community Development Block Grant and approving the environmental review record for the grant.
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion? If not, we'll go ahead and vote, please.
Cots,
Yes.
Jerks,
Yes.
Seaman,
Yes,
Fleshner,
Yes.
Haley,
Yes.
Days. Yes. Resolution is approved.
Thank you. The next item is the cleaning services contract for City Hall. And Laura, when you're ready.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. At the end of February, the city entered into a contract with Bewitched Cleaning to clean City Hall. The contract began the middle of March, and as of May 14th, the contract was terminated due to non-performance. City staff reviewed a number of options available to us on how to proceed forward. What city staff is recommending is enter into a contract with the second low bidder when the bids were received back in February. And that contractor is Cleaning Solutions, Inc. from Coon Rapids. And their bid amount to clean City Hall was $2,080 per month. Cleaning Solutions, Inc. has agreed to honor their bid price. They currently do clean the police department. The police department is satisfied with the cleaning services being provided. So a contract has been included and they have agreed and have signed, and this is council's chance to discuss this and enter into the contract with Cleaning Solutions.
Who does the library?
They just entered into a contract with Cleaning Solutions as
They
well.
do their own. We didn't have to do anything with them.
No,
Okay.
their library board took care of that.
Gotcha, okay.
How have you been handling cleaning in the interim?
It's L&M Cleaning Services.
Mike and I have been cleaning.
Thank you both for picking it up in the interim. Really appreciate it.
It looks like Cleaning Solutions can be prepared to start at the library on June 1st and City Hall by June 4th.
who among you guys kind of oversees to make sure they're meeting their obligations?
It's a combination of probably all the city staff
Okay,
members.
just
noticing.
looking, you notice things,
Yes.
yeah.
Yep,
So
yep.
it's not gonna be like, yeah, unsupervised, yeah,
Right.
okay.
I get it. I get tours on Wednesday morning, so
Oh, you check it
Yeah.
out, okay.
Yeah.
Typically how a professional contract works is, I mean, we monitor the progress and,
Okay,
you know, as an independent contractor, they have the right to kind of, you know, do their own work and own pace. But in this case, you know, we had attempted to try to remedy some of the issues we had and brought the concerns forward. We just weren't seeing
mhm,
them being addressed. And so we think this is
Sure,
the best
sure.
course.
And I just have a quick question for David. Just want to make sure that we're okay with not having to rebid this, that we're okay with going with the second bid. David, are we okay with that?
Dave, you'll have to unmute your mic.
Thank you. Mike, I could not hear you very well. Could you restate the question?
Yeah, I was just double checking to make sure that we were good with going with the second low bid and not having to reopen that for bids, so we're not opening ourselves up to anything.
Yes, that's fine. And I would suggest that council confirm the cancellation of the prior contract prior to entering in with the new contract.
And we have verbally provided her that notice, and we can follow up tomorrow with a written letter too, if that is appropriate, David.
Yes, yeah, the notice has previously been given, but I would just like the council to confirm the cancellation, Mike.
By motion, you mean?
You want the council to basically ratify as part of the motion and cancellation of the police contract.
Okay,
Correct.
And that's part of what the recommendation
right,
is in
that's
here,
what it
so.
says.
Yep. And what I'll do is I'll ask for two separate motions on that. One to cancel the contract and then one to approve the new one. Will that work, Dave?
That works out just fine, Mayor.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Yeah, and I would also add to that, the reason why we probably want to do that is the contracts that we have prepped and we entered into is there is a 30-day cancellation clause. So we still will still require our need to make payment for 30 additional days after we cancel the contract with our previous provider.
Yeah,
Has any money transferred before to the old company yet at this time or not?
Yes, yep, since they began service middle of March, they've been compensated for that portion and April service. And so we still owe for service in May and then the run out of the 30 days, which would be middle of June.
Just want to make sure that the last company is okay with his understanding that this is happening and has been given ample opportunity to defend themselves if there was an issue. That fine? Okay.
Yes.
Enough for me.
yeah, I think there was an individual here one night after a meeting to
Okay.
kind of go through that, or was it one morning? And
one
that
night.
was one night, and then 2 weeks later, still wasn't able to remedy the situation.
Okay.
Yeah, very fair, Jerry, yeah. Any other questions for Laura? If not, I'll need a motion to cancel the contract with Bewitched Cleaning effective May 14th, 2020.
So moved.
Second?
There's a motion and a second. If there's no other discussion, we'll go ahead and vote, please.
Seaman,
Yes.
Base. Yes. Fleshner,
Yes.
Dirks,
Yes.
Cots,
Yes.
Haley.
Yes.
Motion is approved.
Do you need a date for to enter into the contract with Cleaning Solutions? Do we need a date for that? June 4th?
I think the contract is written, it shall begin June 1st or as agreed upon by both parties.
Okay. So, okay, enter into a contract, so that if it's in there,
Yep.
then we're good.
It's in the contract.
So then you need a motion to approve the contract for cleaning services with Cleaning Solutions Incorporated to clean City Hall.
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. If there's no other discussion, we'll go ahead and vote, please.
Fleshner,
Yes.
Cots,
Yes.
Seaman,
Yes.
Dirks,
Yes.
Haley,
Yes.
Base. Yes. Motion is approved.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is the audit bids for fiscal year 2020 through 2022. And Laura, when you're ready, please.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. With the completion of our fiscal 19 audit, that ended a 3-year contract that we had with Feldman and Company. So our request for proposals to perform the city's annual audit for the next 3 fiscal years was sent to 9 firms. On May 15, 5 proposals to perform the annual audit were received and opened. A summary of the proposals is attached to your memo. So based upon that, you can see the comparative information. We don't know, or at least at this point, I don't believe a single audit will be required for this fiscal year, fiscal 20. However, it could be required for coming years. It all is contingent upon if you spend more than $750,000 of federal grant money in any fiscal year, then a single audit is required. And that's why it's noted separately in the tabulation on if there is an additional charge or not.
So that's what triggers a single audit fee.
Yes, is if you're spending federal grant money. Yep, 750,000 is your threshold.
Thank you.
Feldman and Company was the low bid, and they have performed the city audit since 1985 and is qualified to continue to perform the audit. Staff recommendation is to accept their bid and approve a resolution accepting that bid and a contract with Feldman and Company to perform the annual audit for the next 3 fiscal years, including fiscal 20, 21, and 22.
So we would have to notify the auditing company if we spend more than 750, or is that triggered
Yes.
by something else?
It's part of the process when they come in and go through our books, is we talk about that.
Okay.
And I have to give them all the information on which which grants we've been awarded and how much monies we've spent so far in that fiscal year.
That fiscal year.
Mhm.
Any other questions for Laura? If not, I need a motion to approve a contract with Feldman and Company CPAs, PC, to perform the annual audit for fiscal years 2020 through 2022 at an annual fee of $14,000 for fiscal year 2020, $14,250 for fiscal year 2021, and $14,500 for fiscal year 2020. Do I need to include that single audit fee for $2,500?
1,500, I can make a note if
Oh,
needed, or if
okay.
a single audit is required. Yeah,
Okay.
that can be a part of the motion as well.
Just a point of clarification, our documentation says 2,500, Laura.
Oh, it does.
1,500 was from the state auditor.
Yeah.
Oh, I apologize.
Or is that wrong?
No, it's 1,500 from,
From Feldman?
Philbin, yeah.
Oh, okay.
I'll get that updated.
So 1,500 then?
Yes.
Okay.
And there's a typo in the,
In the recommendation, I saw that
you
too.
caught it,
I
yeah,
got it, yep, sorry.
good.
Okay, so the motion is out there with the $1,500.
With the $1,500
Yep.
single audit fee,
Yep.
that'd be correct. Yep.
I would move to accept, I'll second that.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion? If not, we'll go ahead and vote, please.
Cox,
Yes.
Base. Yes. Fleshner,
Yes.
Haley,
Yes.
Dirks,
Yes.
Seaman.
Yes,
Resolution is approved.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is personal policy changes, donation of vacation, and Mike, please.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. The city has received a request from one of our union groups to permit the donation of vacation and compensatory time or comp time to other employees in the union. City staff reviewed this with our labor attorney. He did advise us that under the Fair Labor Standard Act, the city cannot permit the donation of comp time to another employee, since that is time that's earned by that specific employee for overtime that they've completed. So we do need to pay that directly to the employee that earned it. He did advise the city is permitted to allow the donation of vacation time. The city did solicit a number of potential policies from some of our peers around the state. It did find a number that did permit vacation time donations similar to what's being requested here. So attached in addition to this proposal is a city policy that would permit the donation of up to 40 hours per fiscal year of vacation and floating holiday to a coworker, excuse me, that has used all available paid leaves, sick vacation, comp time, and floating holidays, but that cannot work due to the employee's or employee household family member's illness. So I guess I'd be happy to answer your questions. Staff is recommending approval of the attached revised policy to the City of Carroll personnel policy related to donation of vacation. I'd be happy to answer questions the council has.
My question, one would be, how easy is it for, I'm guessing this is a pretty easy thing for you to do, is to make sure they've used all this up at one time. Is that just a click of a button and you know that they've
Like
used up?
if an employee's used all their available, yes, I mean, we track that, it's a very easy thing for us.
I'd be concerned that we accidentally give something to someone before they've used up their own.
I understand, but yeah, we track that on every payroll cycle, so yeah, we're very much on top of that.
Thank you.
Mike, I don't see that's in here. Is it, I don't know, well, maybe it's not an issue, but do you need to list increments of what they can do now? I'm assuming it's whole hours.
So we did, in the policy itself, we did talk about that. Donation of floating holidays has to be at least in 8-hour blocks, because that's what we require. You have to use an entire floating holiday at a time. For vacation itself, we did talk about that internally. We do have employees, just the way they get hired and timing, you sometimes end up with these really weird rounding issues. To be honest, it's easy for us to track that. We talked about it one whole hour, we've talked about it a quarter hour. I mean, if an employee wants to donate a rounding error on their vacation time, I think we're okay with that.
Okay.
I don't have an issue with that. It's not a rounding error, it's just the way it gets accumulated, how it shows up on their paycheck.
Okay.
Is there a maximum number of hours one can accumulate?
There are caps for the various leave types. Vacation, long-term employees that have been here since 2013 can accumulate up to 160 hours, and correct me, Laura, if I get any of this wrong. Employees hired since 2013 can accumulate up to 120 hours. And then for sick leave, you can accumulate up to 1,440 hours of leave. So sheet in your head, so
Oh, sorry, yeah,
pretty good.
okay.
So, this is Jeff, and I couldn't find your go-to meeting link, so we're called in.
Okay, I'm gonna mute you for now, but then we'll get you when we're there, okay, Jeff?
Maybe he muted himself. Okay,
And this policy can work over our union contracts and non-union employees as well. That all lies over top of any union agreements, right?
Exactly, and that's kind of why we decided to kind of take this approach. Instead of just having one carve out for one specific union group, this would open it up. If we have an employee that's facing an issue where they've exhausted their leave balances, any employee in the organization can support that employee. We felt that was a better, and additionally, you may have a situation where if this was in a union policy itself, their supervisors who are non-union wouldn't be able to support their employee if they wanted to. So we felt this was a better approach and allows kind of more donation throughout the entire city organization in these cases.
Very good, thank you.
Has our legal representative looked over this and okayed it?
Yes, he has.
but we don't have to, this isn't gonna go into the union contract. This goes into our policy
Our
manual.
personnel policy.
Yeah.
But yes, we've discussed this policy with him, yes.
Okay,
Which really last year, the union contracts now give that right to our policy, don't they? Was that last year that occurred?
Well, we have two different unions. We do
Right.
have the police union, we have the public works. They both have differing negotiation rights. So this would be more one that the police union as a public safety group could have some more say within. The public works union, no, I mean, this is a term and condition now that the city can impose.
Thank you.
Mike, if an employee, the recipient needed more than the 40 hours, someone else could step up and donate, so it's not just limited. I mean,
Yeah, I mean, if multiple employees wanted to donate 40
in order to
hours,
help,
then they could
but just
allow.
40 hours from a single employee in one fiscal year. Okay,
And you also could have you could have 6 employees donate 8 hours, and that would, again, be able to
Okay, that was-
permitted. It's not just 40 hours
next,
per.
okay, thank you.
It's only the donating employee that's capped at that.
are there any other questions for Mike? If not, I need a motion to approve the attached revision to the City of Carroll personnel policy related to the donation of vacation.
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. If there's no other discussion, we'll go ahead and vote, please.
Seaman,
Yes,
Haley,
Yes.
Dirks,
Yes.
Fleshner,
Yes.
Cots,
Yes.
Bates. Yes. Motion is approved.
Thank you. That finishes resolutions. Our next item is under reports, and the first item is the wastewater treatment plant disinfection improvement, certificate of final completion. And Randy, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Woodruff Construction has completed the wastewater treatment plant disinfection improvements. They did meet their interim completion time of April 1st for actually disinfecting and meeting NPDES effluent limits. Their final completion date was May 7, and that compares to the contracted final completion day of May 29. Final construction cost was $996,923.40, which is the amended contract cost. Unless there are any questions, I'd recommend your consideration of acceptance of the certificate of final completion for the wastewater treatment plant disinfection improvements.
Everything with that's working okay, Randy?
Yes, it is. Mhm.
Have you noticed a change?
A change in the effluent?
Yes.
Yes, there it is disinfecting very well, knocking down the E. coli numbers from in the thousands to in the multiples of 10.
Oh,
So it's knocking down E. coli as it was designed to do.
very good. Are there any other questions for Randy? If not, I need a motion to accept the certificate of final completion for the wastewater treatment plant disinfection improvement.
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. If there's no other discussion, we'll go ahead and vote, please.
Dirks,
Yes.
Seaman,
Yes.
Cox,
Yes.
Haley,
Yes.
Fleshner,
Yes.
Base. Yes. Motion is approved.
Thank you. And let's see, got that one. The next item on the agenda is the vicious animal appeal hearing. And Laura, are you ready? And then present that, or you want?
If I can just interject really quick, Jeff Minnick, I'm gonna unmute you so you can hear, but, you must have gotten the link there, so hopefully you can.
We're on the link.
Okay. So I do think we have them on the link now, and
Okay.
my microphone is not on. Doesn't matter, we'll go on.
Oh. Huh. Fix that, little red wagon. Okay.
Ready for me?
Well,
Yes. Go ahead, Laura.
City Attorney Dave Bruder wants everybody who's gonna make statements to, do an oath.
Oath.
So I suppose as the people are, presented to make a statement, before they make their statements, we'll go ahead and I'll read and ask you the oath questions.
So
So, can you raise your right hand? Brad, Chief Burke, do you solemnly swear that the testimony you give today in this matter is the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
All right, and with that, we will go ahead and begin the vicious animal hearing. And Brad, go ahead and present your side there.
Thank you, Mayor. First, I'll point out, chapter 55.01 of the city code, subsection 3 defines at-large for an animal. It means, at-large means off the premise of the owner and not under the control of a competent person, restrained within a motor vehicle, or housed in a veterinary hospital or kennel. Chapter 56 is the dangerous and vicious animals chapter. 56.01 subsection 2 defines a vicious animal as any animal which has attacked a human being or domestic animal one or more times without provocation while at large. There's 3 other subsections, but they don't pertain to this case that we have tonight. I do have Nate Perry online. I see him up on the screen here. His dog was one that was attacked, and the primers in the top right up there under Jeff Minnick's name would be the owners of the dog, which has been deemed vicious. The officer that took the complaint is currently out on medical and unavailable for any answers or any questions I maybe have of them. I do have the report here and have spoke with the officer in quite length, and I feel comfortable answering any questions you might have about what's going on. Also the printers, and Mr. Perry would also be able to help with that. The call came to the police department on the 10th of May at 9:59 a.m. and it was reported that a dog was running loose and attacked another dog, and the owner of that dog was taken to the vet clinic. The reporting party was not the owner of either dog, was just a witness to happen to see what was happening. The officer responded to the location, which was near Simon and 16th Street, and spoke with Mr. Perry. He indicated that he was walking his dogs, one of them a small Pomeranian, south on Simon Avenue from his residence, which is located at 527 West 17th Street. He was in the area of Simon and 16th Street when a bloodhound charged at the dogs, and the bloodhound got a hold of the small Pomeranian and grabbed a hold of his body and began to bite the Pomeranian. Mr. Perry had to strike the bloodhound several times with his fist to separate it from the Pomeranian. He then returned home and made contact with the vet clinic, where he was advised to bring the dog into the clinic. The officer began looking for the bloodhound and located Natasha Pringer in about the 1400 block of Simon, loading the bloodhound into a minivan that she was driving. The officer did speak with her and said that she was visibly upset and stated she didn't know how her dog got out, and immediately asked if the other dog was okay. She also stated her dog was updated on all records and provided a copy indicating that it was updated on rabies shots. The officer met Ms. Pringer at the vet clinic with the dog, and Ms. Pringer's husband, Matt Pringer, also met them there. When they arrived at the clinic, Matt provided the vet records as requested by the officer, and informed that the bloodhound had gotten outside of the fence by digging a hole under the fence of their yard. Their house does have a at least 6 foot tall wooden fence around the east side and the back side of the property. The Perry's Pomeranian was looked at by Dr. Nelson at the Carroll Vet Clinic and determined that the animal was in a pretty serious condition and gave a couple options to the Perrys. One was to have the animal taken to Ames for an evaluation and possibly surgery, and the second option was euthanization, which the Perrys would have their dog euthanized the next morning, I believe. The Pringer dog was put in a kennel at the vet clinic at that time until we could determine what was to happen with the animal. I met with Sergeant Schreck, who was the reporting officer on this, and we spoke about the incident and determined that the dog would be deemed vicious. The next morning, I believe the 10th is a Sunday, the next morning I met with Ms. Pringer at her residence, issued her a vicious dog complaint, and spoke to her about her dog. The dog was still at the vet clinic at that time. We allowed the dog to be released as long as it was taken out of the city limits, and Ms. Pringer said she would take care of that and has taken the dog out of the city limits. At this point, we have no reason to believe the dog is still within the city limits and that she has taken it to, I believe she indicated, a family member's house in the county. So if you have any questions for me, I can go through this and answer anything you have. Otherwise, I'd ask Mr. Perry to kind of give a statement as to what happened that day that he was walking his dog.
Is Mr. Perry online?
I am.
Mr. Perry, can you raise your right hand? And do you solemnly swear that the testimony you give today in this matter is the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Please proceed, Nate.
Well, I was walking our dogs on Mother's Day morning and was heading north on 15th and Simon past the Pringer's house. And there are two big bushes in the driveway between their property and the neighboring property on 16th and Simon. I saw their bloodhound in the neighbor's yard to the north of their house. Immediately crossed the street to the west to give the dog some space because I had never seen the dog out before. And continued north, headed home. And the dog saw us, beeline for us. I got in its way, but it ran around me and grabbed one of our dogs in its mouth. I then tackled the dog, punched it several times to the ground until it released our dog, then held it in the middle of the street, and our second dog ran down the street away from us. I eventually released the bloodhound, and it screamed at it to go away, and it headed toward the Pringer's house. From there, I did not watch it go away. It was heading away from me, so I collected my injured dog, headed east on 16th, down to the end of the block, got my second dog, went home, called the vet, and went to the vet with the injured dog and my wife. And the long story, the short part of the story is the dog had a broken neck, is the simple answer.
Oh, man. Okay.
So we euthanized it Monday morning at about 10 a.m. It was not worth driving to Ames to try to rack up thousands of dollars worth of medical bills on something that was a lost cause.
Did the second dog sustain any injury? No.
I don't believe so.
No, it did not. It is nervous to go outside now, as I would be too. But it is doing okay.
Any other questions? If not,
Nate, I
Oh,
have
go
one,
ahead.
Jerry Fleshner. You said you were not on the property of the Pringers. If I heard that right, you were across the street with your dogs? Okay.
Correct. The actual altercation happened in the street and to the east on the corner of 16th and Simon. I only remember that because I skinned my knee up and I had to hit concrete to do that. Yeah.
Thank you.
any other questions? If not, we can then proceed to the Pringers. And if Nate and Natasha or one of them is online, we'll go ahead and administer their oath.
They will need to unmute their mic.
Natasha and Matthew, are you going to make comment as well? Probably, maybe?
They have to
They
un-
need to unmute their mic.
Could you unmute your mic, please?
They can do it on the computer.
Just do it on the computer there. There you go. Got it.
All right, Natasha, can I have you raise your right hand? Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you give today in this matter is the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you.
They will need to in their call. Just
you're on the phone. Now?
okay, you're good now. 'cause
Now you're good.
The call left.
Now they can try it again.
Okay. Okay. Now we can go.
Yep. Do you want to, is Matthew, were you going to speak also?
I'll let Natasha do it.
Okay, otherwise we'll get you under oath too, if you want to speak also, if you want to go ahead and do it, that way you're free to speak also if you want to.
I would say let's go ahead.
Go ahead and do it, I would probably, yeah.
All right, Matthew, can you raise your right hand? Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you give today in this matter is the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thank you.
All right, Natasha, please proceed. Thank you.
Sure. Tell them about the dog, how old it is, what the history is.
We've had our bloodhound for about 6 years. She's always been inside. We've had her raised around, we have a husky at home and a Pomeranian as well, and a cat, and she's been around our kids, and we've never had an issue before, but we did put up a brand new fence, 6 foot tall. I don't know, we have some pictures. It surrounds the entire property for the most part, except for the very front yard, but the fence is completely enclosed. Sorry, I don't know if the pictures are,
Yes, we can see that. Thank you.
okay. That day, I had came home from picking up my son, and I had heard as soon as I walked in that she had gotten out somehow, and I had ran to get her as fast as I could. When I heard what was happened, I headed down to the vet instantly. I was so worried for the other dog, because this is nothing that's ever happened to us like this. So it was very nerve-wracking, and I felt horrible for Nate Perry and his family. We are sorry, you know, we didn't mean any of this to happen. Our dog has never once attacked. It doesn't even chew up rawhide bones or anything like that. It's never chewed up furniture. I mean, when we have rabbits or squirrels or anything in the backyard, it's never chased after them. So unfortunately, I don't know exactly how that happened. We've never had an issue with her before, and she's never gotten out and ran away before. So this was all new to us and to everyone, and it was just a very unfortunate event, but we've never had any other issues with our dog, and she's been a good family dog for the last 6 years.
How old are your children?
We have a 2-year-old at home. We also have an 8, 9, and 10-year-old. Well, actually, she's 12, and then we have the baby on the way, and we've never had, like I said, an issue to where even she's been around the bloodhound, I should say, has been around the baby, has been around all of our kids, neighbor kids, anybody that's all came over, and we've never had an issue before. So it's just really unfortunate for something like this to happen. Right away when this did all happen, we apologized. I mean, there's not much you can say sorry for because it still hurts to everyone. But we did our best, and we tried to take care of the vessels instantly. I mean, we felt horrible. I mean, so we did what we could. We felt bad. We sent flowers to the family. We sent our apologies, and the whole incident is just very unfortunate.
Are you afraid of the dog for your family?
No, my dog has never made me feel any way of harm towards my family. She's never bit any of us. She's never growled at any of us. She's never acted violently. Like I said, we can't even get her to chew up toys, or she's never ripped anything up, and she's been an inside dog for the last 6 years other than going outside or going for walks. And even at that, we still never have had an issue with her before.
You said you had a Pomeranian at home, correct, also?
Yes, she's 12 years old.
She's 12?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
We also have a cat at home too as well. And they've, like I said, she'll go up and sniff them and stuff, but we've never had issues. The cat and her have walked around free when she was living at home with us.
The bloodhound, the immunizations were up to date and all that, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
She actually, just before all this happened, she had cancer removed from the vet. So it's just kind of been a long time that we've, it's a very emotional time for everyone.
I agree. Any other questions? Seeing none there, were there additional witnesses, or was that it?
This is all that we're presenting.
It was all, okay. Nate, did you have anything additional? Nothing?
No.
Anything additional from the Pringers? Laverne, I know you're there. Did you have anything you needed to add? I don't want to leave you out. Any questions
Who's
or
bringing
comments?
this forward? Who's bringing this forward, this issue?
The police department, I issued
We are.
the vicious animal appeal or notice to the Pringers, and then they, through their attorney Jeff Minnick, filed the request for a hearing with the city clerk.
Any other questions from the council? The bloodhound was not on, it was out in the public domain.
Correct.
Off a leash.
The animal, by definition of our code, was at large. It had left the Pringer's property. Mr. Perry had noticed it in the neighbor's yard, and the attack occurred in the street.
In the street, okay.
Yes. So even though the animal may have been a family pet, no issues in the past, by our definition, it meets the vicious animal requirements, and that is why the notice was given to the Pringers.
And Nate said he saw the dog, the bloodhound, in some bushes, and he wanted to avoid the dog, so he crossed the street to avoid. But neither of his dogs were barking at the other dog. They were just moving to get away, trying to avoid the dogs meeting.
I can't confirm if they were barking or not. I do not know that answer.
Okay.
Mr. Perry may be able to provide more on that.
Okay.
There was no provocation, in other words.
Nate, was there any barking? This is Carolyn. When you moved to get away, were your dogs quiet and you were just moving them away to avoid any kind of confrontation with the Pringer dog?
I saw the Pringer dog first, and my dogs were not barking, but by the time we crossed the street, they bark, but they are Pomeranians, so they bark at everything.
But you were trying to,
Walk away.
your dogs were not provoking the Pringer dog, correct? You were trying to avoid the dog in the bushes.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Correct, yeah.
I guess, this is Jeff Minnick. I have a question for Nate. Was there any blood drawn, or was there any teeth marks or anything like that on your dog?
There was no blood mark. I thought there was at the time, but it was all drool from either the bloodhound or my dog. So there was no blood on my coat or anything, but my dog was, it was stuck in a upside down curl position and unable to right itself.
Okay.
Sounds like a neurological defect to me. That's what I would hear, yeah. Okay. You had to carry the dog home, correct, Nate? Is that, I think,
I did. I had to scoop her up and carry her home. She was unable to walk, and she was obviously not acting normal. So yeah, I had to carry her home. Yeah.
okay.
So, Jeff Minnick, I just have one more question. So there were two dogs that you think were probably barking. Is that correct?
Yes, I have two.
You were walking two dogs. Okay. And did Pringer's dog attack or lick or whatever any other dog except for the victim dog?
It only attacked the one dog, but at some point in the altercation, I dropped the leashes. I could not tell you when. And my second dog ran off to get away from the situation.
And as I understand it, you physically punched the dog and it didn't attack you?
Correct.
Any other questions from the council?
I don't believe so. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff.
I'll ask one of Chief Burke, have you heard anything today that's made you feel any differently about this case?
No, if the seriousness of the injury would have been less, if it would have been just a scrape or something to the dog, it may have been different, but, it didn't kill the dog on the spot, but it ultimately was euthanized because of the injury. So no, I still, even hearing more information than I had it from originally, I still would issue the vicious dog notice to the Pringers.
And Nate, this is Carolyn. I have one more question. Early in your statement, you said something about the reason you were punching the Pringer dog was to get it to release your dog, correct or not?
Correct.
Okay.
That is 100% correct.
Thank you.
Anything else? Any final statements, I guess, at that point? If not, well, I'll need a motion to uphold the vicious animal appeal, or, yeah.
Yeah, you'd have to either uphold the vicious animal declaration or remove it.
Uphold the declaration, yeah. So if there's no other discussion, I would look for a motion to uphold the vicious animal declaration.
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. There's no other discussion. We'll go ahead and vote, please.
Fleshner,
Yes.
Cots,
Yes.
Dirk,
Yes.
Base. Yes. Seaman,
Yes.
Haley.
Yes.
Motion is approved.
Thank you. And I believe, Dave, they will receive the notification and then they have time to appeal that also. Is that correct?
Yes, Mayor, they will receive notification within 3 days
Okay.
of the council's decision.
Thank you, everyone, for coming, and sorry about all this, but we'll get that handled. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
The next item on the agenda is the Carroll Recreation Center bond referendum discussion. And is Jack online?
Yes, Mayor. Thank you. The city has been considering making improvements to the Carroll Recreation Center for a number of years. The past year, let me turn the camera on. Sorry. There you go. In the past year, we've worked with RDG Planning and Design to develop an improvement plan that the council did review on December 8th and recommended and liked the plan that was $13,382,791. And this was to add the new gym, complete improvement and expansion of the pool area, and renovate the locker rooms. The plan called for conducting a referendum on 2 questions. The first would be if the city should bond the 5.6 million GO bonds, and the second would be to extend the low cost of sales tax 20 years, because we really would need the lot for 20 years to cover that $8 million of low cost of sales tax. So the council had desires to move for a March 3rd, 2020 bond referendum, and obviously that did not happen. We later, the next council meeting on December 23rd, we updated you that the possible March 3rd referendum, while the question of the GO bond referendum could be held in March due to the public notice of the loss, the earliest that we could have a referendum was September 8th. So we couldn't do them at the same time. And we really don't want to bring that forward if we didn't have both funding sources in place at that time. If the city was to hold an election on the 2 questions, the council needed to take actions to call for election by June 15th. With the current uncertainty and the economic situation surrounding COVID-19, staff would like the council to have a discussion and provide direction to us how you'd like to proceed with a September 8th referendum, or wait till the next chance would be March 2nd, 2021. Note that there are challenges with this. Based on past experience, it would be reasonably expected that waiting will cause costs to projections up 5%. That would increase from the 13.3 to the just slightly over 14 million for the project. So really, we just want to have a discussion with you, a direction to proceed with referendum on September 8th or wait until March 2nd. Back in January, February, when we were having these discussions, I did reach out to several citizens, people that were interested in the recreation center plan. And we do have a committee of 12 to 15 people that are interested in this. As soon as we started having restrictions and groups getting together, we have not met. But if this is something you still want to try to proceed this year, we'll need to get that committee going right away and get them up to speed. I have provided, Mike and I, Mike did help with this memo. We did provide bonding options that we discussed at December 18th meeting, and then you got all the bonding options again that I won't get into unless you have questions, and also the presentation that was given by RDG to you late last year. And with that, I would answer any questions.
related to the figure that you've increased it by 5% from 13.3 to 14 million, right?
Yes.
Correct.
Where was that
Yep.
13.3? That would have been if we had done it last March?
No, that was based
Yeah.
on, if
September.
we would have done it based on a September referendum.
Okay, so why is it a full, that's 5%, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it's
Okay.
basically looking at.
But it's only 6 months, so.
I understand, but it's also looking at, are we gonna lose a construction season in there based on when we get architectural plans done?
Okay.
You know, so there's a lot of moving targets. I think that's a
Just had my
worst
hopes up.
case. Yeah.
It'll only be 6 months.
I mean, one of the balancing acts, and I would add this, as through some of the discussions that have occurred, we know that, you know, a lot of these type of referendum projects, when you're facing situations of kind of a down economic cycle, referendums are more difficult to pass. But it's also probably the most opportune time to do a project because construction prices tend to be a little bit lower, interest rates tend to be a little bit better, where when you are facing a scenario of, you know, times are good, it's a great time to run a referendum, it's also a bad time to do a project because, again, project costs are gonna be higher,
Yeah.
interest rates are gonna be higher. So, you know, there's a lot to weigh in this decision. We wanted to have this discussion before we were pressed up at the next meeting of having to make a definitive decision on moving forward, and really have a good discussion on that.
You guys still working on finances and everything, to project out where we would be sitting?
We're gonna update the council with the COVID-19.
Okay.
Kind of where we're looking at finances wise.
So you're telling me the deadline that you have to know is by the next council meeting?
The next council meeting, we need to present the council with basically the referendum questions, and the council would have to act on those referendum questions. And we have to send them to the county auditor before June 15th. So yes, the council would have to make decisions at the next meeting.
For the September 8th vote?
Yes, for the September 8th vote. And specifically, you have to make the decision on the local option sales tax, because that one has a longer period of time before we have to, that we have to give notice to the county auditor. There is a little bit more time on the regular GO bond question, but it's really the local option sales tax that's more timely.
We can hold both of those questions at the same time for voting purposes, correct?
Correct.
I don't know, I guess I was looking at it, I think we might have a better understanding of our financial situation by March, or before March, than we would probably the next month, do something for September.
Hey Jeff, it's Misty. I have a couple questions. I was just curious, I heard you say that you do have a group of people that are willing to kind of work this over. I hadn't heard that before, until today, so we do have people that are gonna help us through this? That are interested in moving forward?
Yeah.
But you haven't talked to any of them here recently?
I have not talked to them about a meeting just because of the situation we've been in. I have individually down at the rec center seen some of those individuals and told them, we'd be updating them here shortly on if we were still going to look for a September 8th referendum or not.
Did they give you any concern or any reason to be concerned, or were they looking to get together to talk with you? Do they sound excited?
I think they understand the financial impacts that the city's having with the rec center and aquatic center leisure services programs, and just overall the city. So they're aware of those, and they understand that situation, and they're eager to start, and whenever we want to get going.
The second part to my question was, I was not able to be at the last Park and Recs meeting, but did you guys discuss it there, and what was that group's thought? Anything?
We had discussed the overall plan several times with them. They love the plan. It directly, I believe the conversation was, I just informed them that we'd be coming back to the council to look to see if we would still do a referendum this fall. And if not, we'd look for a March referendum. I guess I didn't ask them specifically if they had a preference. I just feel like most people feel the financial impact. You know, there's some financial individuals on that understand the stock markets and some of the financial things that are happening with their clients and just in the public. So I think they understand that it might be a hard vote in September 8th. But I did not go around and ask each one individually if they had a strong desire to continue with the September 8th referendum.
I think Jack made a wise statement. It was always going to be a difficult vote, even when we were booming. And I'm thinking, I don't want us to be blocked in by what we're experiencing now. I know we need financial information to see where we're going, how our expected revenues are going to be impacted, and so on. But I don't want this situation that we're experiencing now to impact a project that, if you just think of going ahead in September and you look at the timeline that we were given in the December 18th memo that's in our packet tonight with the September 8th vote, the entire project would not, if it passed, would not even be completed until October 1st of 2022. So that's why I'm saying, don't just think of this in terms of where we're at now with the illness, the economy, or the pandemic and the economy, because this project will not be completed. It's looking like a 15-month window to do this project. I think the full project would have been hard to pass, like I said, even when we were booming. And I hate for us to give up on this project because it's very necessary. The building is essentially how it was when it was built almost 45 years ago. We've done so much. We've done about all we can with it. It is getting crowded in the gym when, under normal circumstances, people want a running track. Based on the citizen survey, that was the number one important, what is most important to serving various groups, and that was the running track. So I don't know. I'm going to throw this out and ask. I think if we went ahead with the vote in September, we'd be asking people to think long-term beyond what everyone is struggling with now. And think in terms of, could we benefit from the situation, as Mike said, maybe favorable construction. We would avoid, when you look at the 5% increase, it will become a project that will be not palatable under any circumstances as you're pushing it up to, $17 million. So what I wanted to throw out tonight and ask for some input from PFM regarding financing and so on is to consider a scaled back project where the cost, where we could still move ahead and be offering more to our public and still be able to do some things that need to be done at the rec center. The locker rooms were the single most, the item that people were least satisfied with in the questionnaire, the survey. So we're looking at a running track, we're looking at locker rooms. I don't know, I don't have the answer, but I was thinking if we could put together a scaled back project, get some financial information from PFM, Suzanne, and merge that with our financial information based on the impact due to the pandemic. Maybe at our next meeting, we could throw around some ideas that maybe some of you would have and see if maybe we could come up with something that would be palatable and say, this is a hard time, but there are some financial advantages to moving ahead. Even if we can't do the full project, we could do part of it and get going and do something positive in Carroll. And our rec center is too valuable an asset to just let it go, you know what I'm saying, deteriorate. I've had people tell me that they didn't realize how much they took the rec center for granted when they didn't have it, and things like that. So it got me thinking, maybe we could pool our minds and come up with something that we could do. Yeah, I'm sorry.
No. I was just thinking that, could you, no matter what, even if we did the, like the walking track.
We would need that
And-
east addition.
And the
to
east
do
addition,
that.
and then you did the pool as an add-on, but you'd still have to have the vote for the total amount, correct?
So, I mean, you're
No,
gonna have
that's
to have a
not what
vote
I-
at some level.
Right.
So you're either gonna have to have a vote on geo-bonding, you're gonna have to, or you're gonna have to vote on local option sales tax, or a combination of the two.
Correct.
And circle back for a second to kind of Laverne's question that he had asked. You know, there is a scenario where the council could elect at the next meeting to go forth with a local option sales tax vote in September. And basically say, we're gonna do that. We haven't made a definitive decision on the rec center. You wouldn't have to make a decision on the geo bond because that's a 46-day requirement
Okay.
until July 24th. So that it would be really your first meeting in July, you'd have to make a decision. It would give you basically 4 more weeks to
We'd have at least 2 more meetings to discuss it,
that
yeah,
component.
or 3, yeah.
So, I mean, there is some hybriding that can be done there.
Well, what I was thinking, Eric, was working with RDG, because in the construction timeline, they have several months, January 8th of 2021 through May 8th, working on final design.
Right.
And maybe we could do something scaled back and have a vote, not for the, what was it, it was gonna be what, 12 million, whatever. Not for that, but for a scaled back project, and just do what we can now and capture and put our money into bricks and mortar and not inflation, blue sky, and servicing debt on a huge amount of money. And just face reality, we wish we could do it all, but we're gonna do the best we can for Carroll and hope that it would pass. And then down the road, tackle the next. Misty, do you remember we were at the Rotary and somebody asked us, how come you haven't just done it a little bit at a time? That's a little bit easier to, and I felt terrible. I thought, yeah.
I thought we had kind of looked at that, but that was gonna be incrementally way more expensive
Well,
than to do it all at
Well, at
once.
the last, at
Right,
the
but I
planning
mean, we
session, we
could-
discussed a scaled back plan.
Yeah,
And
That's
that's what we'd
just
agreed
it.
to. Then when we proceeded forward to the vote, it was because of the financial situation that we were able to present a full plan.
Right,
Well, the financial situation's
changed, correct.
Yeah.
You know, so it gives merit to Carolyn's suggestion of scaling it back. I mean, that's what our original decision was back in November, December.
Yeah,
was
when we
agreed.
had our meeting, yeah.
Mhm.
And I
And,
think, I mean, on that mark, I mean,
yeah, here's
if you
the,
take a $12.7 million project in a project to start this year, if you break it up incrementally, it's projected to be 15 million. That was actually so a $12.745 million project that you would do today, start construction today. If you divide it up, they projected, RDG projected to be a $14 million project to phase it in different components. And again, it's mobilization once versus several times. It's these unknown issues that you have to deal with. So there is, I mean, there's basically $1.25 million in savings doing it all at once. And I think that was part of the discussion too. Again, really looking at the financing when we sat down, it's like, how do we do this? How do we put it together? And it was really looking at, okay, if we bring local option sales tax and the bond together, you know, we'd have to extend local option sales tax for 20 years. We would then need to look at a bond issuance that would keep our debt service component of our levy really unchanged going forward. And in fact, in about 2 or 3 years, it was going to start going down from what it is today. So I think that's also played in part of that discussion of it really made more sense to do an entire project versus trying to phase in these different components because that added a lot of cost. So there's some tough decisions in here.
Mike, what was the deadline again for the referendum for the, not lost,
local
but,
option sales tax, we have to file by June 15th.
Right.
And for the geo bond, I calculated July 24th.
July 24th.
So Mike, just so I'm hearing right, and because we've talked about this so many times, whether we go through with this project or we don't, what's coming from our constituents isn't going to change. We're keeping our debt levy.
Yeah, I mean, the tax asking would not change, correct?
Okay, so the reason we would think about doing a scaled back project would be simply because we're not certain where the city's finances are going to be? I mean, is that why we're asking about this? Because it's not gonna change what our constituents are feeling. I'm not certain why they would vote no.
Yeah.
I'm just stating the obvious.
I mean, I think the question becomes with the current economics that are happening in our community. We know unemployment. I mean, I don't know what the May or April unemployment was in Carroll. They haven't released those yet. But we know it's going to be higher than what we've historically seen in our community. We'll talk a little bit yet tonight about where city finances are over the last couple months, and there's some uncertainty on that. So I think it's just coupled with everything, really kind of a policy decision looking for direction from the council where you want us to go on this.
Because one would like to think that the unemployment won't stay this way forever, as Carolyn stated, we have to think forward. I just wanted to make sure I was hearing that exactly right. That our
I am
people won't
great
pay
with a
more.
full project, but I don't know, given mindsets, if we could keep that positive mindset, Misty, that would be great. But I don't think we should think just, freeze our minds with what's going on now. We need to be aware, this is almost, a 15-month project. Hopefully, things will be back to normality, in 12, 15 months when this would be, where people are really ready to.
The state hasn't changed how it's approaching property taxes though yet, have they?
What do you mean by that?
Well, then they were going to allow people to extend paying them.
Mm-hmm.
They have, and in fact, in the proclamation today, that was extended again.
So I mean, that's gonna affect money coming to the city.
Well, the cash
Yeah,
flow.
the cash flow, that's where I would be going with that, is watching the cash flow coming in.
And the good news is for the city of Carroll, what we're in discussions with the treasurer's office, we think we will actually be in very good shape.
Okay.
By the end of the fiscal year, we expect our payment that we received in June to be, bring us back to really a positive level. So, there was certainly a delay, from what we've seen in previous years, but by the end of the fiscal year, we'll be in good shape.
Okay.
And that's new news within the last few days.
Like the stuff that you showed me was, didn't look real appetizing. And I know those were just projections with what, the information that you had, so. But if that's changing and it's fluid, yeah. Okay.
So are we talking about the lost referendum tonight also, Mike? And how,
Well, I mean, the
I-
question.
the two are
I
so
think you could do both.
entwined.
I think you do one, and then if more information came in, you've got time to decide on
Sunset,
where.
not sunset. I mean, we
Yeah.
were talking about a 20-year lost referendum, but is that what we're thinking? I know I always said it's good to have votes, but we're so dependent with our debt relief, 25%, our projects, just basic infrastructure. It's not frivolous, money being spent frivolously. Oh, and I'll throw in, people have loved the trails during this time. I've heard so many people comment positively about the trails. And I don't know, and the locker room and gym were all lost monies in the option we were looking at. So I think we need to really think seriously about loss tonight too, how we want to move ahead. Mike, you gave us information before about cities that, it's in here, okay.
So
I'm answering my own question.
Back in December, we had 1,372 cities in Iowa that had collected local option sales tax. Only 265, or 19.3%, had a sunset. Otherwise, they were all continuous collections.
And all the towns in Carroll County
That's correct.
do not sunset,
That's correct.
just us,
That's correct.
10 years. I'm just trying to get something going at the rec center.
No,
Considering-
and I've had this discussion with Mike too. If we do the whole vote, I would hope that people would go out and vote. It's the financial part. I don't want us to default on a loan, but that's not gonna be, it'd be another 15 years, or 15 months before we would have to do anything at that point, wouldn't it? We vote on it, but we take the money.
Obviously, if we had a situation where the economics changed even after a vote and they would worsen, we wouldn't be set to actually start construction till, assuming that the referendum passed, till July of next year.
Right.
So we certainly would monitor the situation, and if the situation changes, the city is always flexible in those situations.
So you'd have time.
You're gonna have some engineering costs though, before that time.
Absolutely. There'd be some engineering costs that, assuming the referendum would pass, would start then, sometime after the vote in September.
And
I got it. I got some thoughts. I'm not there, so it's hard for me to answer. I got a question here before I give you some thoughts. If we decide to just go with the lost for a September vote and don't do the GO bond until March, but if we decide, and we had to decide this by our next meeting, and if we decided to go forward with this, is there a back out time, even with that going forward motion, that we could back out yet if the economy went south on us.
I don't know the
Can we actually back out before the September 8th if the economy just went flat on us? Nobody knows what's going to happen between now and then. If it went really bad, is there a way we could back out and not have the September 8th vote on the lost? That would help, that could help make our decision about going forward with, the September 8th vote on the lost.
I would think that you would be able to back out up to the point that you took the bids if you don't accept the bids.
No, I'm talking for the vote. I'm talking for the vote.
Oh, okay.
I don't know the answer to that, Laverne. I would have to talk with legal counsel. I don't know if Dave knows that, but it's probably a bonding counsel question.
I would think that'd be key to be on there though, because that's really a trigger to a lot of things.
Yeah.
And in September, at least that would give us direction of which way we could potentially go. I mean, if it failed in September, that ties our hands on a lot of stuff.
Well, it also makes it a little easier for us to decide what to do now by the next meeting. I mean, if we had a chance to back out, let's go forward with it. And if the economy turns around and everything's fine, it might be easier to pass. But if it goes south, now we can back out. I think that's something we need to know before we make our next decision.
Just on stuff that I heard on the news this morning, I mean, it sounded like businesses were picking up and it was starting to change. How long it takes, I don't know if anybody knows that, but you're not ever gonna know that, but it sounded like, the stock market was up over 500 some points today, so I think it's telling you
but if we have
some direction.
If we have a second wave go through and it's drastic, that'll change everything again. But if we don't have it, then things will, probably rebound fast. But for us to make that decision by the next council meeting to decide how it's all going to be by September 8th, we can't predict that. But if we had a way of backing out, of the vote, then that would make it easier to go forward with the rejection of September 8th.
If I recall, let's say we did hold the lost vote in September. If that failed, we could still put it up on another ballot.
Right,
In March,
Right.
yeah.
right. I mean, it doesn't sunset till the end of December of 2023.
Correct.
So it'd be
Well, and then
smart
that
to do it.
if it did pass on September 8th, then you could go with the GEO bond for a March, might be easier to pass then.
I'm not certain. So the way the statute reads is you have to have 6 months between failed referendums, and September 8th and March 3rd is not 6 months. So,
Well, if it fails, I don't think you even go with a March. But if it passes,
So,
then you have a better chance of passing the GEO bond in March.
I'm lost with this.
oh, I see. Well,
Yeah, I don't know if
honestly,
you could,
Laverne, I wouldn't divide the questions.
yeah, I
'Cause the
would,
problem is we still can't, we're still gonna delay the project, you're still gonna add.
the
If you're
cost,
gonna do it, do it.
right.
Don't,
You're gonna do both,
cause I think if, the problem becomes, you're still gonna delay before we can start construction till the spring of '22, and you're gonna incur that additional 5% construction cost.
I understand what his thought process, but I don't think you're still gonna incur that added expense of 5%, which you're defeating the purpose of, if you're gonna do the LOST in September, you might as well hold the GEO bond for the rec center at the same time. I would keep them together.
Now,
But-
again, you can elect to move forward on a referendum vote on LOST in June. You would still have till the meeting in July to decide if you want to move forward on the GEO bond.
Yeah, there's still time.
There's some time there, and if everything goes to bad, you can say, no, we're gonna put the brakes, at least for now, on the rec center vote, concentrate on the LOST vote, and get that through. Then in the future, year or two, you come back and look at a rec center vote. That's not saying you can't use LOST to fund the project in the future, because if you do 20 years or get rid of the sunset altogether, that's still then a viable option to use that as a funding source for the project. But it gives you some flexibility, then you don't have 2 votes later.
And I get what you're saying there, but that's also contrary to what you just said, that you would recommend both votes. So if we vote yes, from what you're saying, we should vote yes for both. So even though we had that time.
What I'm saying though is if you decide you don't want to go on the rec center, I agree, I'm talking in circles.
Yeah.
It's confusing.
You really have basically by the next meeting to decide both. Essentially,
If you want to do the whole project.
if you want to do the whole project.
I'd like to know if we could back out before I voted, before the next meeting.
I mean, I'm not an attorney, I just play one on TV, right? I honestly don't believe you can back out of either votes once you set them. And my logic and why I say this is, if you remember, the LOST vote, we can't set by ourselves. We'll have to find another jurisdiction in the county to support us. And so it's not just a sole city council, Carroll City Council decision. It will need to be another taxing authority in the county, either city or county, that will need to support us to do that. So I don't think we can, I think once we give it, that's gonna set it. But we can certainly ask the bond council.
Does Dave know the answer to that? Do you know? There he goes.
Mayor, I do not.
Okay.
I do not know. Sir. Sorry.
No, that's okay. Thank you.
Dave gave the appropriate answer, because I just opine and get in trouble, so.
Right. Well, I saw he was still on there. I thought, well, I'd ask him real quick if he knew, but that's fine.
Is there a way we could possibly schedule a special meeting ahead of and maybe get some answers to these questions, and then still have time to digest that before our next regularly scheduled meeting? Does everybody think about that?
Yeah, I was gonna ask the same before our June 8th, yeah.
Yes.
And then, because we have to decide then.
Right,
So the question would be, would you want to hold a meeting like next Monday, June 1st?
well, that's what I had in mind. If I get,
Well,
that's a lot of work to expect by then.
And honestly, let me ask some questions, because we may even want to try to hold it before that. Because the problem is, it's not just the work. There's a lot of work that's gonna have to be done to get the referendum questions ready, which we haven't even started yet. So obviously, having a June 1st question, now we got legal counsel, okay, go ahead and prepare the questions. I mean, one of the issues is we could prepare the questions, bring it all back, and have another discussion at your regular next meeting. And then you guys make the decision at that point.
yeah, I do.
Or we could have that discussion, Jerry, June 8th, and if we need a special meeting,
Still have-
we could, we have
Yeah,
by the
we still have
15th,
till
we
the
could do it afterwards, then they'd
Yeah,
have
we would.
enough. Yeah. But.
Do we really even need a special meeting? Just let us know if we can back out or not, and then in our next meeting, we'd have that information that we know if we want to go forward or not go forward at that point. Do we need a special meeting just to find out that we can back out or not?
I mean, if you got the question posed now, I don't know why, Mike, we couldn't find the answer to that ahead of
Okay,
time.
we'll find out the
Yeah.
question, if you can back out.
And if we have that information, then we know what we're voting on our next meeting.
Yep.
And one of the questions I would ask is if the response comes back, no, you can't pull out, that once you set it, you have to proceed forward, would that influence or change the path you'd want to take? Because I probably wouldn't have the bond council prepare the referendum questions and present them if your answer, if their answer is no, you have to proceed once you set the election. And that's just so we don't incur additional costs.
Somebody's car horn went off back there. It's mine?
It stopped. It
Oh.
stopped.
Is that a rhetorical question, Mike?
What,
Is that a rhetorical question?
my return, the car
The
horn?
question you just asked, is that a rhetorical question? Or are you looking for a
I'm
response?
looking for, I mean, no, I don't think it's rhetorical. I think it's just, if
Still going?
if the answer comes back, no, you can't, once you set it, you have to proceed, you know, the question becomes, do you not want us then to prepare the questions?
You know, I don't know as it matters. If we aren't confident enough to bring this forward and move with it, then we shouldn't bring it forward and move with it, in my opinion. Either we go or we don't go. We've got a very tough decision to make. The rec center is truly a center of Carroll that sets it apart from many different communities and really poises us above those communities. It's a true addition. Carolyn, you pointed out that people have missed it.
They have.
They have missed it.
They really have. And I think, you know, Carroll, we don't sit still. We shouldn't. And, yeah.
This is
I
a
agree with you.
long-run decision. This is a long-term decision, and I think we are doing the people of Carroll a disservice if we don't give them the opportunity to make this decision.
That was gonna be, if you didn't get there, that's where I was going. This is ultimately a decision of the people. It's a vote by the people for the purposes of
As it should be,
themselves.
yeah.
It's not our decision. Our decision is to put it forward to them, but ultimately, that's who has the say. That's how this is set up, and they have that right. Now, we're gonna give them that ability to be able to do that, and I think that's part of our responsibility. We've done the footwork to get it to this point. That's what we were elected to do. Now let the people speak, and this is how you do it. And if they say no, they say no. Now you understand.
Then we can pivot.
Then, yep, we can go
If we
another
need-
direction.
If we need to, yeah.
And people are smart. We all know that our future is uncertain with or without COVID-19. We have been impacted greatly, and all of us feel the pain from the pandemic, but people are smart. They can make decisions even with tough circumstances.
Very well said.
Yeah. And I think they're thinking long-term.
Correct.
Because they're looking forward. This is off topic, but in the paper about the housing market in Carroll, I mean, that was a cheerful, I mean, that was a positive note that prices are going up over last year. We're seeing, you know, sales. I think that's a good economic indicator of people believing in Carroll.
It is my opinion, my opining to say, I would go ahead and put both questions together and see if this council decides to move forward with it or not.
Like I said, at the end of the day, I think it's the people that get to decide, and that's who we are responsible to. It's their rec center.
You bet.
They need to have their voice in it, and we've been delaying that, and I think it's time.
We've got a great package put together. It's been responsibly done with a lot of due diligence over a long period of time. COVID's unfortunate, but this is the plan, and it's the people's choice.
If you think about it, without that, we're moving ahead without doubt.
Absolutely.
We don't know from now to September, we will have quite a few more answers on how that affects things.
You know, life's pretty unsure. None of us would have banked on COVID-19. We don't know what's coming tomorrow any better. All we can do is make the best plans we have. And this is a fiscally responsible plan to expand the Carroll Rec Center. We've got everything laid out for the financing. We know we can do it, and move this facility forward for the next 40, 45 years and have it be ready for our children and our children's children.
Well, I think it really could be an economic stimulus too, if it passed. Giving people work. I mean,
And at the same time, we get a good value for our bids. They get work to keep people employed. It is. It's a winning situation.
We just went through this with the library, and look where we're at, and that came in under budget so far, and that has worked. I mean, there's no reason to think that something like this couldn't. I know in discussions that I've had before with people about the library, get it to the vote of the people. Let them say what they want to say, and that's kind of the attitude that I've been taking with the rec center. We have to put the thing together. Once the plan's together, let the people decide. I think that's what our responsibility is.
with the loss question, Mike, are you recommending maybe doing away with the sunset, or do you have?
That would be my recommendation.
Okay,
I'd be on board with that too, just
Yeah,
to
given-
speak openly.
yeah, we're using it for streets, trails, I mean,
Reduce tax and, yeah, lost works.
okay.
Well, the fact, what percent have a sunset? 19% is all? 80% of the communities have this on a permanent, we would be in the minority if we didn't, which we are now.
Right, that's correct.
And we're the only in Carroll County.
I'm still a supporter of the sunset, but, if the question goes forward, it goes forward. People get a vote on it. So,
And I remember the discussion, you, me and Carolyn would
I know.
have been in the same
I
room. It
was
was
for
just
the
for that reason,
sunset,
just because
Mike.
you never know what the future holds.
Yeah, Eric and I wanted the sunset, sorry.
I still wouldn't change my mind. I'd still put the sunset in, but I'm not voting, so I just
You're
share
not?
my opinion. Thank you.
That's the beauty of this council. We darn sure don't have to agree on everything.
No, we don't.
Well, with that, if, we're gonna be deciding in a couple weeks, like Clay said, and Eric said too, it's the public's opinion. They've got 2 weeks to get back to us council members, and give us some feedback on what we're talking about tonight.
It's a great point,
Yep.
Vern.
Yeah.
Thank you, Laverne. I think the media is online, so they are hearing the discussion, so they can certainly put it out there.
I always forget the number, but doesn't something like this cost us about $5,000 to $10,000 to move forward with a referendum?
In just the election costs,
Yeah.
there'll also be some bond council costs.
Sure.
Okay. So what I'm hearing is prepare 2 questions to present those at the next council meeting to proceed with a referendum. 2 questions, 1, local option sales tax, extend that with no sunset. 2, a bond referendum to pay for the remainder of the rec center project as we've previously outlined.
I would bring us 2 versions of the question on lost. I'd bring one for with a sunset and one without. From what I've heard, there's some
What I would
discussion in
really
the room.
request is kind of an answer to that tonight.
Yeah,
The reason I would like an answer tonight is I need to start approaching other jurisdictions in the county.
Sure.
And so that gives me more time to work with them.
Well, this particular councilman would recommend no sunset.
I would support that.
If we're the only one in the county that doesn't have a sunset, that's, it should be easier for those cities to say, yeah, join us with no sunset.
I'll just sit on the sunset chair over here. That's all right.
I don't know. Mike, given that the bond scenarios are from December 6th of 19, would it be wise to check in with Suzanne and see if there are
We'll ask her.
anything different we need to think about? Thank you.
We'll ask her.
Okay, thanks.
That could darn near get better.
So you got your direction? No sunset?
You don't get to
I'd be the
vote
lone
unless
person.
there's a.
Laverne, where are you? Sunset or no sunset?
Like I just said, let's just join all the other cities in the
Okay.
county with no.
All right.
I would still, just for informational purposes, I'd like to know about the back out
Okay.
for all of it.
Laverne would still like to know about the back out.
Commit, Laverne.
We'll find
Jump
out.
in or jump out.
Pressure.
Yeah. All right. With that, you got a direction to go, and then I think our last item on reports was COVID-19 discussion. And Mike, when you're ready.
So, obviously, we know with the COVID-19, the city is going to be facing some financial landscape changes that are occurring right now. The Legislative Service Agency, or LSA, did have a report out about a week and a half ago, kind of talking about the revenue and budget impacts of COVID-19 on the state of Iowa. And one sentence out of there, really out of the beginning, as I start this discussion on the financial impact to the city, is, LSA currently does not have sufficient data available to adequately determine the impact from the economic slowdown due to COVID-19 pandemic on the state of Iowa revenue. And so I think that's really important to say, because we as city staff, while we're working to evaluate the impacts to COVID-19 on our financials, we don't have all the answers yet. We can't get some answers from the state, and some of it's just the way legs on revenues come in and work. So we're working through that as quickly as we can, and really, staff is doing a really good job on that. The thing I would say is good organizations have rainy day funds. Really, the hard work of this council, past councils, your city staff, have developed a very good reserve for the city of Carroll. We're in a good, strong financial standpoint moving forward. We're gonna, you have reserves to those rainy days reserves for rainy days. Well, it's raining cats and dogs outside, kind of literally right now in Carroll, but financially speaking, we're in that time. We're gonna weather the storm. We're gonna come out strong in the end, and we're gonna be in a better position once we get through this current situation we're facing. So I'm gonna let Laura now jump in and kind of talk through some of the more details and kind of a path forward.
Thanks, Mike. So what we've already talked a little bit about with the property taxes, we knew they were lagging a little bit due to the extensions that the governor had allowed with the payments. However, some of the information that we're getting from the county is it appears people are paying, and we should be collecting the amount that we had budgeted. So from a property tax perspective, it looks like for this fiscal year, for fiscal 20, we should collect what we think we're supposed to get for property taxes. So that's across all of our funds.
So basically 99.9%.
Yes, we believe so, yes. Though, of course, you don't want to count your chickens before
Right.
they're hatched and the money's in the bank.
Correct.
But it sounds like the people of Carroll County have been paying, which is really good news. We have not heard anything from the state about the backfill. If you recall, when we put together our budget, we had anticipated roughly $200,000 in backfill money from the state for our fiscal 21. And of that, at least $145,000 is what we have in our budget for the general fund only alone. I'm not being very optimistic that we're going to see that money for the next fiscal year, even though I know the state hasn't said anything. But that could be a potential revenue deficit of about $145,000 in our general fund in fiscal 21. We did collect all of it, or the state apportioned everything for fiscal 20. So we did get all that. The one thing that we know is the area that has probably been hit the hardest right now in our general fund budget is the areas of the park and recreation areas, where we've canceled the spring soccer and we've canceled summer softball, baseball. Our anticipation of loss of revenue from that was approximately $35,000. But also in that same breath, I'm going to say, we didn't have the program, we didn't get the revenue. There are some expense savings that we didn't have as well that we would have had we had those programs. Is it net zero gain loss? Maybe not quite, but you didn't have the program, you didn't have the expense with it either. We do know, so what I had done and I took a look at is, like, if you guys did look through and read the LSA report, the state had looked at a time period and they compared that same time period to the previous fiscal year. I did that with our rec and leisure program and aquatic center. So I looked at the period from March 1st to May 21st. And of course, yes, this current fiscal year, it's down, or that time period in 2020 is down from 2019 in all those areas. Roughly, the rec center was down 56%. Leisure services revenues was down 83%. And we hadn't collected any aquatic center revenue, obviously, this year, where in fiscal 19, we had collected a little bit in memberships. Memberships really start picking up after the aquatic center opens. Well, we're not to that point yet in 2020, so we don't have any membership revenue from the aquatic center. My best guess
Our revenue last year,
for
the aquatic center.
for that time period that I looked at, just under $3,000, right at $3,000. So not a huge amount. But typically, we don't see a lot of that revenue coming in until it opens. So this past weekend, had it been a normal year.
I asked the wrong question. I meant last year's revenue.
The whole of last year.
Oh,
Last year's, what would we, if we got zero, what have we lost from last year to this year?
About 36, 37.
yeah, something like that,
I thought it was
30-some
around
thousand.
there that we get about every year from the aquatic center.
That's on the membership side, and then daily admissions is gonna be something else as well.
It seems like it runs about 36, 37
In both of those categories, yeah.
together. Okay.
So my best guess right now on those areas in the rec center, the leisure services, and the aquatic center, if you compared March 1st to May 21st of 2019 to 2020, we are approximately $102,000 less than the prior fiscal year. I did not get into or didn't look hard at, but there are some expense savings that we did not have.
So that's revenue that's down.
That's revenue,
But
yeah.
you also don't have expenses when it's.
There's
not
some
open.
expenses we did not have, and I did not get that information pulled together yet. That's the biggest area that's probably been hit in our general fund. It still appears, like I said, property taxes are coming in. We're still seeing collections. People are still paying utility bills, which we'll get into that because some of that revenue comes into the general fund from your utility bill, from the garbage collections. So that's still coming in, but this is the biggest area.
And just to back up to Jerry's question, what he asked, we collected last year at the aquatic center about $20,000 in the month of May. So that would have been the bulk of kind of the late opening.
Are you looking for all of May or the whole season?
I meant the whole season.
That's what I thought, yeah.
But it's okay.
Hey, Mike.
Yeah.
This is Jack.
Oh, Jack, maybe Jack knows.
I'm sorry, I don't have the end of last year's, but typically our memberships have been anywhere in the low 50s to the upper 30s.
Okay.
Memberships in like 2010, 2011 was 59,000. In fiscal year 13-14 was 39,000. So it really varies on what people want to do, but generally low 40s to mid 40s would be the average of memberships. Daily admission anywhere from about 42,000 to 32,000.
Thank you, Jack.
Yep.
Okay.
Sewer and utility.
Or the next thing I was gonna go to is, unless somebody else has a question, I kind of was gonna have a discussion kind of going by the different funds.
Yeah.
And that was kind of the, I guess, the highlights of the general fund at this point. So the next fund I was gonna talk about was the road use tax collections. So far, the collections have been very similar to prior years. However, according to that LSA report, they did state in their road use tax fund revenues have not reflected a decline due to the pandemic as of the date of the report, which was May 14th. However, revenue declines are expected. The reduction in traffic counts have varied, but decreases have exceeded 40% for some days. So what does that mean? We don't know yet. We don't know yet.
Most of their report, when you look at it, is pre-COVID,
Right.
and then they're waiting for the federal government to decide. And they are looking at getting money to the states that they will dispense to individual cities. That's a part of what Grassley is going to push for. And I wouldn't give up on the backfill yet because they haven't met. They haven't gotten back into session.
Right.
And so I would encourage everyone to contact, especially Brian Best, and encourage him to check on this. He told me he would talk to party leaders and see what he could do. And I think if he heard from other people, I think just a reminder to see what he could do for us. So.
Okay.
Does anybody know when they're supposed to go back in session?
Like the
Thought it was June
first
1st, I
or
thought I heard.
something, yeah.
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 One thing I worry about the federal kind of pass-through is, the state has gotten a lot of dollars that they have a lot of discretion on. And I think that's the direction that's really been talked about is we're gonna give the state a lot of money, they're gonna have a lot of discretion. And they haven't trickled even in the first CARES Act, much if any, to the local governments. And so the state's making decisions that really, I think, don't reflect on the boots on the ground, the people that are really in the trenches doing the work day in and day out.
Mhm.
So I would prefer, I know the National League of Cities has really pushed really hard to advocate a direct allotment. I mean, you've seen that with the larger organizations out there doing that. I would say if you can do it in New York City or Los Angeles, why can't we do it in Carroll, where I think we're a lot more prudent in how we spend our funds. So
I think they know that. They're worried about pension bailouts in New York and
But
Illinois.
giving the dollar, what they did in the first CARES Act was they gave it to the large cities.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
And didn't give it to the cities where we're not in a situation where
Yeah,
pensions are in
yeah.
bad shape.
Well, that's why it's really good to communicate with these people and let them know we're watching. Trying. Sorry, Laura, it's my rant.
It's a good discussion. I guess the last little thing I would say with the road use tax collections is we do have a sizable cash balance in this fund, meaning that we're projecting to end with roughly 1.5 million at the end of fiscal 20. The fund can weather a decrease in collections for a period of time and still be operational. I'm not sure what I mean by a period of time, but we do have some funds that we can still be able to be operational. However, capital project funding would be impacted if the decrease goes on for a sizable or for a long period of time. I guess the other thing, since we've already kind of talked a little bit about local option sales tax, my next discussion I would go towards is local option sales tax and hotel-motel tax. I kind of group those together in the sense of that we use those funds largely for capital projects and not so much operational things. Once again, the LSA report didn't give us a whole lot of information because I don't think the state knows either what's kind of going on. They did comment that their sales and use tax collections during that time period that they looked at was down 4.1% from the time period of March 19th through May 5th. My best judgment or guess on this is that's lagging and there's still more to come because of the time period that they're collecting. doesn't maybe have the full impact of when a lot of the retail stores and things were shut or closed down, that they maybe hadn't reported everything for the month of April at the time that they had done their cutoff of May 5th.
And you have businesses that are just now starting to reopen.
Right.
So there's gonna be that lag.
So there potentially
How
could be
much they're
a
reporting
bigger
back to the
lag
state.
than the 4.1% that they're showing there.
Could be double, yeah.
But how much,
You don't know.
I don't know. What I can tell you is so the city typically gets their local option sales tax deposit at the end of the month. And it's an estimate for the state takes the whole year of what they think you should get based on past history and sales data that they have. They break that up over the year and they estimate, okay, this month you're gonna get this, 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 and this. And then at the end of the year, once the fiscal year has closed out, they'll do a true-up payment, or they'll adjust your next year's collections if they're seeing as the time goes on that you're not making, or you're not hitting the estimate that they had originally had planned.
Does that money come directly to us? It doesn't go to the county and then?
No, it comes directly to the city.
Right to the city?
Yes.
Okay.
So the deposit usually gets into the city's account usually around the end of the month. So the amount that the city had received at the end of April was what they had originally estimated for April. I think a lot of that has to do is because they don't have any more best guess data at that point. I haven't heard and we haven't gotten the deposit for the end of May yet, so I don't know what that's gonna look like, if it'll be the same or if they'll adjust it.
You'll have that probably by the next meeting though.
Yes,
It's okay.
yes. Well, as we continue our discussion, and then kind of the same discussion with hotel motel. Hotel motel is a little bit different in that we only get payments 4 times a year, quarterly, and it is based upon actual dollars or tax collections remitted to the state. So the tax collected for the period of January through March, the city will get that either at the very end of May or first part of June. Haven't received it yet, so I don't know what that period January through March looks like right now. However, we were on trend for this current fiscal year. I usually estimate around 220,000. We were strong in that we were definitely going to hit that mark. So if January through March really hadn't seen much of an impact from the pandemic because all the activity didn't occur until the end of March, I would anticipate it should be fairly similar to prior years, that we should hit our estimate there. Now going forward, who knows?
It could be down for the next quarter though.
It could be down for the next quarter.
Okay.
And so I guess as we go forward and look at these funding sources and as projects come up, we are in the middle of some projects that we've allocated these funds towards. So we definitely need to commit those funds and finish out those projects. For instance, trails is a big one. We're working on finishing up the last segment. And we had budgeted that for chamber tourism promotion in fiscal 20. So we'll want to honor that commitment. But going forward, there's some other items that if the project come forward, we can definitely take a look at before we do the project to decide, do we have the funds? Because as time goes on, we should have more information available and things become more clear of what's going on. I did make copies. So this information it's the budget information. I haven't updated it, but just to refresh your memory of the local option sales tax and hotel motel of what we had talked about at budget time.
How do you want to do this?
Oh, yeah, Doug.
Thank you.
Thanks, Laura.
So it gives you an idea of some of the projects, one that either we have committed to do or what we've talked about
Thank you.
going forward.
Oh, mine's way over there. We're a little closer here. I don't know why. Still 6 feet apart. There you go. Thank you. Can you send those to Laverne?
Yeah. Laverne, I can email those to you if you don't have them. Otherwise, it was a part of your budget book. That's the pages that I passed out.
Theater improvements, that was for the rec center theater, correct?
Yes. Currently, we're not under contract for anything
Yeah.
for that right now. Well, I'll let you guys kind of look that over as we go forward with this whole financial review as days go by. The last little bit of area I wanted to hit upon is our utility revenue collections, water, sewer, garbage. And it appears that they have been very comparable to prior years. We're not seeing a significant drop off in collections to date. So the only one area I would say that we're going to see a little bit of a hit is the area where we had charged late fees in the past, but council waived those for the months of April, May, and June, which relates anywhere from $6,000 to $9,000. Because we typically charge anywhere from $2,000 to $3,000 per month on late fees. And so those were waived for 3 months.
Oh.
So that's $6,000 to $9,000. But other than that, the utility users are paying their bill.
Do we have to vote to take those off, or does that come off?
That resolution was set up, it was just for 3 months.
Just for the 3 months, okay. But if we wanted, if we wanted to keep that in place, we'd have to vote on it again.
Correct.
Okay.
Any thoughts, any questions? Anybody wants to know more that we can find out more for you guys?
Just keep trickling it out to us as you learn it.
Yeah, it was helpful, yeah.
And I think a few comments I would make to wrap it up, unless there's other things. I have asked department heads, I think the prudent step is, we don't know how long some of these revenue hits are going to look like. In some cases, like the rec center, we don't know what will happen with memberships, because we've had a few individuals that have canceled their memberships, and that could end up being a long-term revenue hit to that facility. So I've asked all department heads to start developing for fiscal year 21 what a 2.5% reduction to their budget would look like, and what a 5% reduction to their budget will look like. I'm not saying that we're looking to implement any big changes right now, but we think it's the prudent step. It's better to plan early if you're going to have an issue and start implementing stuff earlier, rather than waiting till you're in a dire situation. And even looking at some of the financial models on city financing, even the worst case scenarios, we're not looking like we're going to have any issues at least till fiscal year 22. So I think we're in a really strong position in the city, but we think it's always important as policymakers that we update you with this information as we start looking at it, so that no one is surprised or blindsided. So I think the end of the message is, this isn't a dire situation, doom and gloom. It's more of, rest assured, we're reviewing, we're making sure that we're in a good position as we move forward through this.
Would it be prudent to maybe freeze some hiring in positions, or hold on some partial part-time and let some of the full-time workers work? Other than the police department, because that's something that needs to be done. We need those officers to patrol, but other departments.
We've done that where we have scrutinized every position. We have held off filling some of our seasonal part-time positions. We've done some furloughs where necessary, both part-time and full-time. We have brought back all of our full-time at this point, but
Right.
as things change, we may make more furloughs moving forward. So we're very conscious of that. As staffing, we've held off posting some positions initially. We have posted some positions, but it's kind of operationally, we still have to function. We're a pretty lean organization overall on how we operate. And so, yeah, but that's a very critical area that we've spent some time looking at. I would say any new position, we're not looking at this exact juncture to add. That will be something we will continuously evaluate with council consultation.
I miss my visits with Roy, unscheduled visits around town. I always find him somewhere.
Is there anything else on finance that you want to discuss right now tonight?
This was great.
No, thank you.
I think Jack is still online. We want to talk a little bit about the rec center and aquatic center and what we're doing with COVID-19 at this point. Jack, are you still there?
Yes, that's fine. Thank you. Rec Center, I'll start with that. We've been keeping track. The month of May, we did open up May 1st, and I went back the last 2 years, 2019 check-ins. 6,983 people scanned in the month of May. In 2019, 2018 was 6,018. To date, as of yesterday, well, yesterday was Memorial Day, so that's 0. But so far, we're at 1,730. So we're about a fourth of what we generally have coming through the rec center. Obviously, you don't have the pool, sauna, whirlpool. We have some restrictions and some activities that can transpire in the gym that men's kids pick up basketball games are not happening. So those things are happening, and that's having obviously an impact on our rec center. One thing, I had a conversation with Mike today. One thing, I think we're at we put the limits of 35 participants in the weight room and in the gym, and rarely have we even come close to being at capacity at either place. Some days we don't have 35 people in the entire day. So I think we're at the point where we can add some additional groups to the rec center and still make sure they're doing the 6-foot social distancing. We're keeping the numbers within 35 patrons. Is to add the 16 and 17-year-old kids members into the rec center. Again, we're only allowing members, people are paid members to come in. We're not taking daily admission at this point. But we're going to add the 16 to 17-year-olds starting tomorrow. So we'll get the information out tomorrow on Facebook and all our other avenues to let the public know that the 16, 17-year-olds do not have to be with their parents anymore. They can go into the weight room, gym, pool area. And the one area I think you'll see the most impact would maybe be the gym, where we'd have to monitor, make sure people aren't playing pickup games. They're still doing the social distancing in those items. So that'd be the one area at the gym. So
can I add something right there, Jack, really quick?
Yeah.
With the order that even came out today, there's always a lot of detail where you have a paragraph or two, but there's 45 pages in the governor's proclamation. So, for example, sports and sporting events, a lot of that got relaxed, and that was really the cue that was made. Well, specifically, the governor's order says baseball, softball on team sports, and individual sports of golf, running, tennis, there's something else I'm missing, is permitted. So basketball, for example, in an indoor setting, well, in any setting, indoor or outdoor, is still technically prohibited under the proclamation. And I have gotten clarifications from the governor's office on that specifically, because we have a basketball tournament that was supposed to start at the rec center on Friday. So yes, why do we still have a restriction on social distancing of basketball in the gym? Well, because the governor's order still says we have to have a social distancing requirement, and basketball is not permitted. So we want to get these things opened as quick as we can, but we have to take the guidance that's given to us from those authorities. So, any questions on that? Okay. Jack, do you want to continue?
Yeah, and just a side note, this is the one thing Mike and I are talking about, but I was just during the meeting looking at numbers. Our golf course membership is actually up this year. We have more members than we did last year. Just a note, obviously,
Because they're not going
some
to
of
the
our
rec
other
center.
areas are. What's that?
That's because they're not going to the rec center.
Yeah, I just thought that was pretty interesting to get that information. I wanted to share that with you, so I had some time. Aquatic center, you know, Mike and I and staff have talked about, you know, what are we going to do at the rec center? Basically, or at the aquatic center. The activity is the same thing as the indoor pool, lap swimming. You allow 2 people in the per lane. You can allow 12 people. There might be some additions, but not many more to that. So the question is, do you open the aquatic center? We have it filled. We flipped the heater on today. Andy's been working really hard over there just as we were going to have a rate. Basically, to get the pool ready for 12 people, it's the same as getting the pool ready for 300. You need the chemicals, you need the balance, all those things for the people. So he has been working like he's normally done and gotten everything ready for the aquatic center. And I just looked and I figured out during the meeting, last year, the last fiscal year, we had revenue of $87,000, expenses of $124,000. Our biggest loss of the year of any year is $36,000. So that was a full year that went through June of 19. So going back, the aquatic center, do you open up for lap swim? I think the one area that we could, if that's the desire of the council, would be open from 11 to 1 adult lap swimming. You could allow rec center members into the facility to do lap swimming outside. It'd be something they would enjoy. A few, obviously, you still have the individuals that they only want to go to the indoor pool because of the sun, because, you know, a lot more people driving by and different things. So we talked about, Mike and I, of opening Monday through Friday only, 11 to 1 for lap swimming only, and limit it to the same indoor pool. And if we do that, we close the indoor pool. If we get a lot of feedback that's not positive, that we've closed the indoor pool, they don't want to go to the outdoor pool, well, hopefully you give us some leniency to make some decisions on cutting back hours, adding hours to the rec center. So I think there's just some options that Mike and I and staff have been thinking about, and just wanted to give you options to consider if you want to see the outdoor pool open. You basically have 2 lifeguards and a person at the front desk getting the people, checking them in, making, you know, individuals that just want to come pay for the day for those 2 hours, we will have them come through and do that. Use that punch card we talked about at the previous meeting, those kinds of things.
There's something else.
I really don't think you go more than 2 hours at the aquatic center, staffing reasons, and just such a low number. Generally, most of our lap swim and water walking with that we feel would be successful would be over that noon hour. Maybe not so much in the evening. With what we see in the clientele now at the indoor pool.
Is there something else in the proclamation that I'm missing that would not allow us to open more than that? Because I thought I understood today that she removed the groups of 10. So not that we want people to congregate and gather, but I sure would like to see the pool be used to its, I mean, as much as we can this summer. 11 to 12 or 11 to 1 seems.
I thought she said 25. If they could go up to 25 or something.
Again, it's the detail that you have to start looking at. So what the proclamation says is a swimming pool may reopen for limited purposes of lap swimming and conducting swim lessons, including lifeguard training, but only to the extent that the establishment operating the pool takes responsible measures under circumstances, and it goes through a whole public word. And at the end it says, except for those limited purposes, all swimming pools and spas, wading pools, water slides, wave pools, spray pads, bathhouses, as defined by Iowa Code 135I1, shall continue to be closed. So the only purpose that we can do at the aquatic center or any pool would be for lap swimming and for swim lessons.
But don't you think she's gonna continue to open more things up and relax things?
Absolutely, and we would expect is, so this current order goes through June 25th. And as she's done other things, she's relaxed different things at different times. So even though she'd have an order that goes through June 25th, she may relax something June 10th. And I think at that point, then yes, we'll make a change. So this isn't an all-season thing, all we're gonna have is lap swimming. This is just, what can we do today and moving forward? And really, this is a limitation that we have for us is all we can do is lap swimming and swim lessons. And I think we will look to do some swim lessons here and in the rec center pool like we have in the past. It's just, this is
Absolutely.
today the limitation we have. But yes, we filled the pool, we want to use the pool.
Just can't use the slides yet.
You cannot use
Nope.
the slides.
Have we opened up the program for swim lessons yet? I mean, has it been put out to people yet, so we know if it's gonna be graciously accepted?
Jack, did you hear that question?
Yeah, we have not opened up swim lessons yet. Jess and I talked about that today, and we are going to proceed with trying to do some swim lessons. Yes. Some of the lessons might be because of social distancing and some of those things. We might try to include the parents in being in the pool with them, and I might say, you know, help your child lift their legs up. So the parent might help them raise their legs. Just do different things like that. Yeah, we'll try to modify swim lessons to do them. So, yes.
The swim lesson though just came out today, that we could offer swim lessons. Did that come out a couple
That
weeks
came
ago?
out last week.
Last week, okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
Last week.
We wanted to get our laps, you know, that was something we could instantly get going. That's why we did it. The swim lessons, we talked about that even when this order came out. We're, like Jack said, we're working to get it. It just takes a little bit more mechanics to get there. But yes, we plan to do that.
Do you do swim lessons at both the indoor and outdoor pool?
You bet.
Okay.
Yep. Weather's the only thing that can, you know, prevent us from being the outside doing swim lessons. But yeah, that's an option. Jess did talk to me today a little bit. I asked her to put something together, and I see she emailed me. I haven't had time to read it. Possibly swim team. If there's any possibility to do a swim team where Carroll does the swim meet here, and it's just our participants, and Coon Rapids, they swim in their pool, keep times, and we try to figure out stuff like that. So she's being really creative and trying to involve swimming and getting some more activities going. So those are things we'll roll out as soon as we get some more information. And Jess has been talking to other pools and other places. So we're trying to do as much as we can with the limitations we have.
And again, this is an evolving situation because elsewhere in the order talks about, I knew there was another sport, and that was swimming.
Mhm.
So swimming is now also permitted. And so, but that was nothing was said prior to today. So, you know, we'll look at, you know, can we get a competitive swim summer team going? I know Cass has kind of talked about that they're not going to be doing that. But is there something else we can do? We want to look to do those things if we can.
Anything else?
Unless I hear a different direction, what we'll do again at the aquatic centers, we're going to start offering lap swimming over that noon hour, Monday through Friday. we won't offer that at the rec center at that point. If we see a situation where, excuse me, we have a lot of people that are, we're over capacity, we'll open both facilities at that point. But right now, we don't think that'll be an issue. So unless I hear different, and then if we have bad weather, we'll open the rec center up over the noon hour. But we want to be able to get into the aquatic center and start using it since we filled it.
Supposed to be a little cooler this weekend, but by next week, it's gonna be up in the 80s, so.
One last thing I have on a COVID-19 update is council meetings. So the social distancing for like these community type meetings, that's what we fall in as a city council meeting. They did get relaxed where the 10 limit went away, but we still have to maintain 6 feet of physical distance between each participant at the meeting. So as you look around, there's not a lot of room to add very many more bodies to the current room. So unless I hear differently, I would assume we want to keep kind of the status quo of what we've done until that social distancing component goes away.
Well, that's the most important thing all of us can do is that.
Right.
So there's no sense trying to cram in and get every single person in here we can.
Okay. So we'll continue to do the meeting with the council.
Well, there could be an exception. We haven't let anyone else in here with the council, but we might have the bond person be able to come in here personally instead of.
And we may
I can
have
see that.
staff come in here now more since we don't have the 10 limit.
Right.
But from the public perspective, we'll still offer the way we've been doing it.
That's what I think is important.
Yes, and I think we're actually getting better. Each meeting it's getting better and better. So my fear is you guys want to keep this afterwards because it's a nightmare to set up.
Yeah, I like this. You got all this space up here.
Sounds good.
So then the meetings will stay status quo. I don't know if, I know we have a lot of staff still on. Does Rachel, I don't want to put you on the spot, but do you have any update for the library?
Updates for the library. We're just working on a reopening plan and implementing that right now. So we're still continuing to provide our enhanced services during this time in regards to curbside pickup. We're allowing people to come in with limited computer usage at this time as well, and we're allowing people to print and make copies as well. So all our basic services are available at this time outside of the building pretty much. So we're working through that and working on getting signage up along with many other things here to get the building ready to open. So, and also transitioning summer reading to online as well. So we're working through many things right now. And so we're anticipating, hopefully we can open early June is what we're shooting for. So that's what we're working through.
And I think the biggest challenge for the library right now is we're probably more unique than most libraries in Iowa is we're a brand new facility. We never even had a day open for the public, so the public really wants to get in and look at the space. And the biggest thing is I caution people as we reopen is don't flock to the library. I think what you're gonna find is we're gonna have limits on how many people can be in the facility and how much time. Because we know people want to get in there, and rightfully so, they want to get in there to the building that they're supporting. But we just ask people, keep in mind those social distancing, and as we get that facility reopened.
Aren't libraries still specifically closed by the governor?
No, they can now be open to 50% capacity, which off the top of my head, Rachel can correct me, I think would be like 200 people in the library. So
correct.
That would be a lot of people in the library.
But it's that uniqueness of, if we had the library for 10 years, that'd be different, but
yes,
there are people just itching to get in there.
Yeah. So
I get questioned.
I hear it every day.
Yeah.
So we'll get them in there in due time. So. Is there anyone else, I guess staff-wise, want to give an update or anything? Otherwise, I think we're done for today's COVID-19 update.
think we're good. Anything else? Otherwise, I trust everyone's read the monthly activity reports. I have no comments this evening. Any comments from council?
Just the
Go.
cemetery looked beautiful.
Oh.
It really did. They did a great job considering all the rain and everything, so I just want to say thank you. And they did some work around the cemetery museum, and it needed the cover, and the black plastic was blowing all over, and they fixed it up beautifully. So thank you, Jake and crew.
Oh,
The other
And
Thank you.
everybody,
is
yeah.
normally we have assistance from inmates from Rockwell City, and because of COVID-19, we were not able to use them this
Oh.
year. So it was all staffed, and they did really a great
Oh,
job.
yeah. I was walking around and people were complimenting them. Yeah, so thank you.
I would add to that these flags that we have around the city look
Oh,
fantastic this year too.
Yeah.
did what they could. If nothing else, thanks again. I need a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
There's a motion and a second. We'll go ahead and vote, please.
Base? Yes. Haley?
Yes.
Dirks?
Yes.
Seaman?
Yes.
Fleshner?
Yes.
Katz?
Yes.
We are adjourned.
Thanks again, Laverne.